Well, just as your children will trigger your issues, your romantic partner will trigger your issues. We're triggered by attachment figures. Our primary fears are attachment fears. By 3 days of age, the infant's already starting to develop a fear of separation. And by 10 days, it's becoming quite well developed. By 2 years old, they're starting to develop a fear of loss of love and approval. And by 5, they're starting to developing a fear of being bad. These are all attachment fears. They have to do with a connection to others. They're obviously there's a survival element to them, but there's also a social element to them as well. And an emotional regulation element. We're unable to regulate emotions outside of these relationships. As strange as that may seem, but as soon as the worst thing you can do to a human is put them in solitary confinement. Their capacity to regulate themselves and stay balanced disintegrates the longer they're in that confinement. So we need others to survive physically, but we also need others to survive socially, emotionally, and mentally. And these fears are triggered not by strangers, not by associates at work, not by the friends you play tennis with, but by your attachment figures. They're the ones who will elicit these deep gut responses from you. And of course, what we do in those romantic relationships is we resort to the same strategies in the relationship when those fears emerge as we developed as a child. So if we were in a healthy relationship with our parents, had secure attachment, we'll have ways of expressing our feelings to our partners and in a way that they can understand our need and respond to us. If there's been conflict, we'll be able to address the conflict and find balance again. But for many of us, up to 60 or 70% of the population, the attachment strategies of the anxious or the avoidant or the disorganized attachment styles are what we bring to these relationships. And so when this attachment fear rises within us, as we sense separation, as we sense rejection, abandonment, loss of approval, is the same strategies arise as we did when we were children. If we had adults who could not validate us, who could not see us, who could not respond to our need, we had to do something else. We had to go inside. We had to become anxious or pursuing in our need to find that. And we will then engage in those same strategies. They're, of course, unhealthy strategies. They often perpetuate the problem. And we find ourselves in a cycle with our partner where we're continuously triggered and we're continuously engaging in these unhealthy attachment styles or schemas or strategies or whatever you want to call them. And they are the biggest source of problem in our relationship. Often the content, what we're fighting about, is rather irrelevant. The thing that's driving the conflict is the underlying emotional atmosphere that's driving this dynamic in the relationship. And it's really hard to often pick it out yourself, to be able to get to the bottom of it. Being able to go to somebody who specializes in this type of therapy is really important often for you to be able to get to the bottom of it, understand the fears, and be able to start communicating them to your partner in a way that lands with them, where they can hear you and they can respond to your needs. One of the most important functions emotions have is to point us to what we need. Fear points us to a need for a boundary. Sadness points us to a fearful connection. And so the needs, the emotion is what will, as it's expressed, is what the purpose of it is for us to have a need met.